I'm Jaemie.
I'm Vanessa.
And we're low-key obsessed about everything. So today we're interviewing Nicole. So Nicole, what's your background?
So excited to be here. I am a dating and love coach.
All right. And so how did you get into that?
Such a good question. So my background is a dating and love coach, but I've been a counselor and I've been trained in NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming. And what kind of led me down this path is I was coaching women on like confidence and self-love, and where I found they struggle the most was in their love life.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of get lost in knowing who we are, what we want, and how to like really communicate that and create the relationship we want. But what led me personally into this is my own love life.
Okay.
Right, of course. So I was at this point in my life where I was like, okay, I finally met the guy, that one that's gonna last and go the distance. And it abruptly ended and I was devastated. And we had just gone on this road trip and I was like so excited. I introduced him to all my friends and family and I was like, look at me, I'm doing it. And we get home and I'm like, so what should we do? Where should we go for dinner? Do you wanna do takeout? As we're unpacking the car. And he's like, actually, Nicole, I just wanna be your friend.
He friend zoned you.
I was like, what? And it like what caught me off guard so bad. I was like, I became that girl you see in movies. I like hit his tires. I threw my clothes and like my luggage on the ground. I was like devastated.
How long were you together at this point?
Oh, a while.
Okay, really?
Long enough to know that this wasn't the ending I
wanted.
wanted.
Like a few years.
Yeah, and I was just like gutted.
Yeah.
And I was desperately like, just so sad. And so I was at that point that I'm like, didn't want to tell anybody because my girlfriends were getting married and having babies at this point, and now I was single again. And so I was like, I need to figure out men. That's the problem. If I just understand men, then I could figure out why they commit, why they don't, what they're looking for, how they think. So I was on this mission to understand men. But along the way, I discovered like, oh my gosh, I got my own stuff going on. I had my own limiting beliefs around love, my own childhood wounds, different ways I showed up that was creating this pattern. And so this is kind of what I do with my clients is from my own journey, I came up with this like framework of what I called like the love confidence code, where it was really understanding like, what are I call it your alignment. So what are your values? What's really important to you? What are your needs? And then the other element is like your assurance. How self-assured are you? How confident? Are you comfortable with boundaries, your love standards, being able to communicate what you want? And then the third aspect is this idea of like authentic expression. So are you able to be in your feminine energy? Are you able to express yourself? Can you communicate what you want? So in my own journey, I found this process that was like, oh my gosh, even though I knew all this, I had my own blind spots.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think Vanessa and I are probably like in similar situations where we dated like guys long term and then it just like didn't go the way we were expecting.
Yeah.
And I think like our biggest challenge now is like app dating. Like app dating is so weird at first because like there's so many other challenges. It's like, is this person real or is this a 100-year-old man?
Right.
And like
catfish.
Totally.
I have yet to be catfished.
I have been catfished.
You have definitely been catfished.
But now I'm smarter. I like reverse image search everything. But like, what would you say are like common dating mistakes that women usually make?
Well, I think a lot of times we as women naturally future think. So like even myself in that relationship, I'm already future thinking where we're going to go. And so I think a lot of times women are going on these dates or going on these apps and they're starting to paint a picture of who this guy is.
Oh, and they're like too connected to the outcome rather than getting to know the person.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're also kind of going on dates, kind of interviewing men, being like, oh, does he check the boxes? Does he have what I'm looking for? Instead of checking into her body and feeling into, do I even like him? Do I even know who he is? Is he someone I want? Instead, she goes in thinking, does he like me? Does he want me? Will he call me again? Will he ask me on a date? And so we get too caught up in these outcomes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is a big one, and I call it pedestaling.
Oh, where you put the guy on a pedestal when you don't really know him at all. Yeah, I do that.
Like I do that all the time.
Yeah, it is, I think, one of the most common things because that's part of that attached outcome, right?
Yeah.
And so I say to women, give like 20 points. What are 20 things you're looking for? And get really clear. That's that alignment piece, right? What are your values? What are you looking for? And then your boundaries. So once you know those, then you can go on a date assessing if he has these aspects. And it's going to take some time. But what happens is she automatically assumes because he's good looking or he's tall. Or
tall is a big one for me.
Yeah, he has a good job. We instantly give him all those 20 points.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
instantly he's like this amazing guy. And then we're trying to prove ourselves that we're just as good.
But when it comes to checking the boxes, like, do you think that like you need to have a set non-negotiables, or do you think that there should be some like fluidity between that? Like, if they're like 80% what you're looking for, then is like, how do you decide like what's a compromise and what's not a compromise? One of my things is like alcoholism in general, like, because that's just something that I've experienced personally. And so when like someone doesn't drink, it's almost like a red flag for me, and I'm like, I don't know if I could like be with someone who struggles with sobriety again.
Right.
But then I'll go through a phase, like I think I went through like 3 guys that were sober, and then I was like, oh, is this a boundary for me, or is there like flexibility there?
And that's a really good question, because that's really personal. Right?
Yeah, totally.
And I think sometimes we need to know what our non-negotiables are, right? What are our deal breakers? And then also what are our expectations? What are what I call your love standards? And knowing that. And I think you have to almost assess each situation and really feel into it. Like, is this a trigger from my past? Or is this a legit like red flag or a non-negotiable? And like you're saying, you're feeling into it. So each of those situations probably had something different to them, right? And it depends how each of that guy interacted with you, how well he communicated, to how comfortable you felt.
Totally. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Okay.
And you may also have a point where you're like, no, this experience was so hard, right? Being with someone like that I don't want that. And that's okay too, to be that clear.
So it's almost just like feeling in with like your own, like, I guess, like, for lack of a better word, like trusting your own intuition with the situation.
Okay. Absolutely. And that's where I talk about in that confidence code, where it's like, what is your self-assurance, that self-trust, that ability to really know what you need and be okay with it? Because other people are going to tell you, well, that's not that big of a deal. It's been 8 years he's been sober. Or it's okay, he only has one drink. So everybody's going to have an opinion. So you've got to be able to learn to go in and be okay with your decision.
I feel like as soon as I go on a date, I instantly know. Like, as soon as I see the person, I'm like, I know.
And what do you know?
I just get like...
Like, you know,
what
you're
are
attracted to them?
I don't know. I think it's just a gut feeling. Is that crazy?
Well, no. Sorry.
Yeah, you're nuts.
Not even nuts. But in 2 parts. So sometimes one aspect is when you know that quickly, that can sometimes be familiar energy you're feeling.
Okay.
And sometimes that familiar energy isn't always healthy. So we get really comfortable really quickly with somebody that feels familiar. And that could be from an old relationship that didn't work. It can be from your childhood experience. So that sometimes we look for is that familiar energy, which may not be ideal. The second part is sometimes when we know that quickly, I'm always curious with my clients, like, what are you thinking you know that you're able to determine so quickly? And sometimes it's her way of protecting her heart. Because there's this sense of like, well, if I go out, I might get hurt, or I might not like them, or they might take me and lead me to a path that I don't want to be on. So it's being able to identify for you, what's your determiner? What are you so quick to know?
I don't know. I guess it's just, okay, I always think it's energy.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Like the energy.
Is it the banter? I feel like you like banter.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just as soon as I see them, I'm like, I instantly know yes or no. I don't know. Maybe I'm just judging too quickly, which
It's not a bad thing, right? Like, that's okay to know. But then I'd stay curious. Ask yourself even more. What is it that I liked about him, and what did I not like about him?
Right.
Get more curious so you'll get more information, right? Instead of being so quick to decide. And then once you're deciding, be like, what were these factors this time or last time? And that'll give you more information. The other thing you could also ask is, and we were talking about this before, is that you can pick up on people's energy being really off.
Right.
So if you're nervous on a date, or if a guy's nervous, or he sees you and he's like, oh my gosh, she's really pretty. Oh, I didn't expect that. Or she looks like her picture. And oh my gosh, his energy is going to be totally off. And if you're going by energy, you're going to feel his awkwardness and be like, no, that ain't working for me. Yeah. But it's because he's not showing up truly as himself, because he's been thrown off.
All right. So I won't judge too quickly.
Yeah, like, how long should you wait? Like, or just like till you know? Like, do you keep it going?
I definitely think you need at least 2 or 3 dates to get to know somebody because of that energy. And we all try to impress on that first date, right? And you may find that guys, I call this the peacocking quality, where they'll really try to impress you. They will say a ton of things. They'll try to talk your ear off. They won't ask questions. They're like, look at me, look what I've accomplished, look at who I am, look what I do on the weekends. And you're like, he hasn't asked me a question. like, oh my God, he's so self-absorbed.
I feel like you've been on a few dates
Yeah,
like
my
that.
dates, they always just talk about themselves forever. And then they're like, this went really well. And I'll be like, you don't know anything about me.
Who am I? And so he's thinking it went really well because look how great I am for you. Of course it went well. You should want me. Where men don't realize that connection piece is by asking questions. So that's what I mean by you might need 2 or 3 dates to get a vibe, like you're saying, to feel into it, to really know. Yeah. And it also gives you opportunity to be like, well, what other aspects does he have that I am looking for, or that he doesn't have that isn't going to work?
Yeah.
It takes a bit of time.
No, it's challenging. I feel
It's challenging. But also I want to know about like playing games. Like I think that's like my
like texting protocols.
Like texting.
And like who makes the first move. Like I guess who pays.
Like I feel like there's always like a runner chaser dynamic. Is that normal in a successful relationship?
I think there's like, you've got what you're saying, that runner chaser, or you've got the convincer, and then the one that's like leaning back, right? And so you want to make sure you're aware of that dynamic. And you want, so it is tricky because you got online dating. And as women, I think it's okay to make that first move, being like, oh, it'd be great to meet up at some point. I wonder how we can make that work. So you're not telling him, let's meet Saturday, but you're saying, hey, I'd love to meet up. I wonder how we can make that work. So you're indicating what you want. Or it'd be great to hear your voice on the phone. I wonder how we can make that work. Or it'd be really fun to do this video chat, right? So you're indicating something, but you're telling him, can you make that happen?
So do you suggest a video chat before an actual date? Like just to screen them?
You could do both. Yeah, you could do both, or a phone call, right? Some people like that, especially because of the environment we've been in for so long, right?
Yeah.
Like getting out and being social is a little awkward, and we haven't always been as open, right?
Yeah.
The environment. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a preference. Yeah, for sure. But the idea of like that chasing, that push-pull, is knowing like as women, we want to be somewhat chased, but we have to give indicators that we want to be chased.
Oh, so what are chasing indicators?
Smiling. Eye contact.
Okay.
And you'd be amazed at how many of my clients are like, what do you mean I have to make eye contact? Like look at them for more than 2 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, because men need to feel encouraged that you're going to be receptive to if they come over and talk to you.
Oh, okay.
Or if they ask you out, or even online, like if they were to ask you on a date, you'd say yes, right? We need to give these indicators that they can win, that we're open to it.
Oh, that they won't be rejected. Interesting.
Yeah. And so then the other piece is we want to be careful that we don't shift into the convincing role. Like, have you ever been on a date or a couple days, you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like we connect on all these levels. I totally can see a future with him. And now you're like, when do I see you again? Like, are we going to see you next weekend? What's this happening? Are you going to call me? Like we start making the moves.
Yeah.
Now we're in the convincing role.
Oh, so we have to pull back and wait.
Yeah, and not wait, but we just have to make sure our energy is dispersed, meaning like we're talking to other people, we're focusing on ourselves and not just on him and trying to convince him to see what we see.
Quantum dating.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, quantum dating, so much work though.
I know.
It isn't, it isn't.
Well, because like my biggest thing is I feel like it's a waste of a guy's time if I know I'm not invested. So like I try to like end things early. Like I won't go past like a 3-date mark if I know that it's not going anywhere. But then with quantum dating, it's like, do you build a roster? And like some of them you're like not that interested in at all. And you just keep them going to like have that attention. Like they can't all be like
That's a good
your
question.
main focus.
I wouldn't necessarily keep it going if you really know it's not a good fit. Like, because that is that leaky energy. It's kind of wasted energy.
Yeah, totally,
and it feels like you're leading somebody on. And I wouldn't want that feeling myself. If someone's really clear, like exit out. Yeah. But I think it's important that we give people enough time to really get to know if that's who we want. Right. And then iterate. And we don't necessarily always have to be dating. When you're quantum dating, which is the concept of dating multiple people at the same time, you might not necessarily be even going on dates. You might be smiling at the guy at the coffee shop.
Okay, it's just being like open and not feeling like
smiling.
Exclusive with one person. Okay.
You might be smiling at the guy at an escalator or on a street corner, or you might be talking to the Uber delivery guy. Like you're just using that energy all around you. You're not necessarily having to always go on dates.
I'm just gonna smile at everyone. I'll be like, why is she smiling at me?
Vanessa's so good at approaching guys in public. She does it like all the time.
Nice.
And like it's like hilarious actually.
Yeah, I think what was it a month ago? I saw this guy. We were dropping off our friend's dog at an apartment block.
Okay.
And the gym was downstairs, and I saw him working out through a window. And I was like, Jaemie, is he cute? Is he cute? He has lots of tattoos. Seems really cute. And so I like got out of the car. I was gonna write something down because I'm old school.
Okay.
But whatever. And then I was like, knocked on the window. I was like, hey, are you single?
Nice.
And he's like, yeah. And I was like, can I have your number? And the window was just opened a crack. So I just felt like a little creeper, just like standing there.
She like wrote it on a napkin.
Yeah, I just wrote it on a napkin. I was like, phones exist. We can use phones, I guess.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So that's so courageous. Oh my God, I love it. Because what you're doing is you're just saying, who knows? Like, if it works, it works. It's great.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people won't make those first moves because they're so afraid if he's with a girlfriend or he doesn't want you or doesn't find you attractive. Like, we make all these stories to mean something about ourselves.
Right.
That interpretation of rejection.
Right.
Where you're like, whatever, this is fun.
Oh, I
If it
have no
works-
shame.
But it's not even shame. You're just not making it mean anything about you.
Right.
So that's not shame. You're just saying like, hey, I'm going to enjoy and put myself out there because if it lands, great. And if it doesn't land on him, it's not something about me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not making it mean that I'm not pretty enough or I'm not what he wants. Like you're letting that go. And you're like, let's see.
Yeah. Pretty much. I have nothing to lose. So
Exactly. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So powerful.
But then isn't that like the woman making the first move, and is that masculine energy, or like how does that work with like the runner and the chaser dynamic?
So what you're doing is back in the day, you used to call where you would drop a napkin, like
The
a tissue.
handkerchief, yeah.
Yes, right. That idea, which is the concept of like you're making an indication. So you're indicating to him, right? You could even have said like, "Hey, are you single?" And he might say, "Yeah." And you're like, "Oh, here's my number if you decide you want to take me out," or "Here's my number if you're interested." Right? You're making the move, but you're now creating a door opener,
Right.
and then it's up to him to then make the move.
Okay.
Right. And I think in today's world, we kind of need to like make a little more indications that we're open and receptive. Because I think men have learned that us women can be pretty closed off. We're very guarded. We want to be protected and safe. So I think sometimes we're a little unsure of how to reach out. But you're not saying like, you're not forcing the date.
Yeah. I feel like people are so comfortable behind their phones and like on apps these days that the thought of even going up to someone is
In real life.
in real life is scary now.
Yes. But do you also hear like how many people hate the app?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone
Exactly.
does.
Everyone
I've never
can
heard
do
someone say, I love app dating. It's
Yeah.
so
Right?
much fun.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But the reality of them making eye contact and smiling or even approaching and talking to someone is like they won't do it. So it's this weird thing, right? I hate this platform, but I don't want to work in that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So where would you say, if you want to meet someone in real life in Vancouver, is like the best places to go?
This could be any city or anywhere really, is you want to look at what are the things you want to do, right? So there's 5 ways to meet people. So maybe we'll start there. Yeah. So there's 5 ways. So you've got your online dating, your speed dating events, right? You got matchmaking. So that's one aspect. The other one is out and about. So where your out and about is. So that could be like your seawall if you're in Vancouver, your parks, out walking your dog. It could be on a hiking trail. So anywhere that you like to be. The next one is your common interest. What do you like to do? So really figure that out. Is it the hiking? So is there hiking groups? There's a new running group that just started in Vancouver. So do you want to be part of that? Is it you like going to art museums? So is there a group that you like that? So kind of the common interest is what you want to look at. The other one is through friends of friends. So that's like your barbecues, your dinner parties, your birthday parties, a wedding, anywhere you have friends of friends, right? I had a client meet her husband that way. So she went to her girlfriend's partner and said, "You're this amazing guy. I really like you. Do you know anyone like you?" And he's like, "Oh, you think I'm amazing? You like me?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, then I do have a few guys like me." And so that's how she met her husband. So you can ask your friends of friends, right? So trying to get those bigger circles going is key. And especially in Vancouver, I think that's important. We get pretty insular in our groups.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then the other one is the other option is then where you're like out and about. I always get these ones confused. Yeah. Out and about, that one. Oh, and then like where you're going out and you're like doing the things you love, like networking. So this might be through work, this might be forums, this might be your meetup groups. So kind of using all your opportunities, right? And I think sometimes we get so focused on just online dating is the only way. And we forget there's other ways to meet people. So if you can think of that, it's going to be key. And so then in Vancouver, you're really looking at, okay, what do I like to do? Okay, that's my out and about. What are the groups I could join?
Yeah.
What are my friends up to this weekend? Because I think it's not so much location, it's more our energy. And like you said, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it didn't work out, so.
What, really? I thought you went on a date.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
But that's great.
Not the love of your life.
He's not the love of my life.
But that's okay. But see, there you go. So what you want to say is, oh my gosh, I was so brave and courageous. He's going to get me that much closer to what I want.
Right.
As opposed to every date I go on, he's going to be my man.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. And I think that's one of the mistakes women do too, is we put so much pressure on that date's going to be our guy, our forever guy. I don't have to do this anymore. And so she goes in with so much energy and expectation as opposed to, oh, I had a really good time. I got to know men better. I got to enjoy this great cocktail tonight. Like taking the pressure off of trying to find her guy and just enjoying the experience like you did. Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to start creeping in windows. That's where I'm going to find him.
Trying to find more strangers.
Yeah.
You could join a running club. Like, you like running.
Yeah, but I like running alone. It's me time.
Yeah. I think most of the things I like are for the girls. So it's like,
Yeah.
there's no males there. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to get creative. Yeah. And then you also have to be intentional. So if you're dating, there's intentional dating, right? So like you're saying, a lot of things I do is with my girlfriends or by myself. So you get to look at, okay, where in my schedule can I actually make dating a priority?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's important to you and you want to meet somebody, it not like it's a job, but it's intentional. So you might say, okay, every Thursday night it's happy hour. So I'm going to go to a happy hour, or I'm going to go to Whole Foods during like that rush hour. I'm going to be more
combing the
intentional.
aisles
Yeah,
for
I'm going
boys.
to be intentional. I'm going to go for that walk on Sunday or Saturday. I'm going to be available. So you might not necessarily be going on dates, but you're intentionally like out and about.
Oh, just
off
being
on your phone.
seen.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of times people think it'll just happen.
Yeah.
And more we don't leave our house.
Yeah.
Like,
I am actually 100% that person. I work remote. So I'm like,
Yeah.
never go anywhere.
Totally. And you can get groceries delivered. You got Uber.
Yeah.
Like you don't have
Yeah.
to leave. So it becomes that much more reliant on an app that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So it requires that much more of intentionally putting yourself out there.
So what would you say are some like do's and don'ts of apps or like best practices for your profile?
Yeah. Number one, don't put any pictures with somebody else in them.
None.
None.
Oh.
Not even one to show you have friends?
No, because what happens is your mind instantly compares. You will instantly look at a picture and compare two people.
That's true. Because if I'm on an app and I see this guy with all his friends, I'm like, what are his friends like?
Yeah. And if
You-
he's not the hot one, it's so sad.
Remember when you messaged that guy and you're like, is your friend single?
Oh yeah, he didn't like that.
Right. All the more reason.
gotta shoot my
not
shot,
to, not put any pictures of anybody else, because the human mind naturally compares.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
For sure. Don't want to waste pictures on like your dog or the scenery, right?
Not a dogfish?
No.
Like just holding a cute puppy?
Yeah,
That doesn't work.
Or like the fish. Yeah, neither. No, those don't work. So you want to use pictures that actually showcase who you are. Because apps are that much more image based, you want pictures to really accentuate who you are and what you're about. So you might have to have your girlfriends to go out and take some photos of you like at a coffee shop or standing by the wall.
Grocery shopping.
Yeah.
I'm awesome.
Because it just creates more of that sense of who you are.
Right.
And then when you're writing your profile, you really want to get creative, because the amount of times I work with my clients and I'm like, what you just described is what all of you say, but all
I'm easygoing.
women.
I love hiking.
Yes, or different women. I love a glass of wine, chilling by watching Netflix at the end of the
Margaritas
night.
are my guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Going to a pub, you're like, oh my God. And so then what happens is those profiles are so generic, then the guy or whoever's reading them is going to have to rely on your photos.
Yeah.
To
know
determine
your personality. Yeah.
Yes. So you really want to think of like, how can I paint a picture a little bit of my quirky side? Yeah. So I have a client who's like really into The Office. So she's like quotes The Office and she's like, who said this? Brownie points. Right? Like that
Yeah.
already indicates what she's about. So little things like that. Another client's like, yeah, I'm terrible at parallel parking. So if you can teach me, game on. Like,
Yeah,
you're
totally.
trying to create something. And that also allows somebody to then ask more questions or start a conversation than you enjoy hiking.
It's almost like an Easter egg. Like we use this in marketing where you like hide something for someone to find as like a conversation starter or something.
Yeah. And I think the apps are desperately trying to do that by those prompts.
Yeah,
Right.
like Hinge especially. Yeah.
They're all trying to get us to do it, but we're all kind of still answering it very similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So to get really creative, I would say.
Well,
is
and
a good key.
everyone thinks they're very funny too. And I've seen my friends on dating apps too, and they'll be like, "I love an independent woman" or something like that. I'm like, "You are so codependent. Like, that's not you at all." So it's like you have a different perception of yourself too sometimes, and it doesn't necessarily align.
Yes, that's so true. And that goes back to that love comp discover, your alignment. Like, who are you really showcasing yourself and being really okay with who you are, right? Like, you're codependent. You're like, yeah, I really love being with my partner and doing the everyday routines together and enjoying that. Like, just own it. But I think we've gone to this place where we have to change or be something in order to get love or to get someone to want us. And that's so awkward.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. And I think the other piece too is we have a belief that being single is bad. Like, we're all trying to get into a relationship, and there's something about like our self-worth or our self-value as a collective society that single isn't good. And so we need to be in a relationship to feel valued. It's like someone picked me, someone wanted me. That must mean I've got value. I'm purposeful. And I think we need to break that disbelief, right? Because I think singleton is a choice. And like, even when someone's divorced or out of a breakup, it's like, oh, you've been divorced or you're separated. Oh, right? Like, oh my gosh, instead of like, wow, you found what you wanted and you took the courage to exit something that wasn't working for you. That's amazing, right? We don't look at that. So we somehow as a society put so much preference and energy and value on a relationship that we dismiss when we're single.
Yeah.
And I think that's terrible.
Yeah. No, that's
we need
fair.
to shift it, right? Because there's nothing wrong with either. Just because we're in a relationship doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, no, it's
right?
true.
And it's change our value.
Yeah, it's like depends if you're happy versus or like fulfilled versus like what your relationship status is.
That's true. I had a client call me the other day. I talk to her quite frequently on the phone, and she's like, "So you have a boyfriend yet?" And I'm like, "Nope, sure don't." She's like, "Oh, you don't need one." And I'm like, "That's great."
I don't need one, but you keep asking.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that contradiction. It's like, so why do you ask if I don't need one? Because now you're making me feel like I should.
Exactly.
And then you're not reassuring me that I didn't. But why'd you even ask?
Yeah.
And it's this weird thing that we have this pressure on people to be in a relationship. And so then a lot of people be in relationships that aren't really fulfilling or stay longer because they don't want to be single.
Yeah, like they're afraid to be alone.
Yeah, right? As opposed to, wow, I've got all this freedom and I got choice and friends and like, it doesn't always make it something better.
I feel like I've gone like the other way where it's like annoying to even like think about caring about someone else. Like it seems like it's like so restricting. I'm like, oh, it's going to take someone like really great for me to like give up my freedom. I don't know why I think that relationship means no freedom, but
so
that's my own limiting belief.
Totally. That's a good one to like uncover, right? Like, what have you given up in the past? What have you had to sacrifice? Where did you not get your needs met? All of that. And when we have some of those limiting beliefs, we will show up much more guarded on dating. Or you'll attract someone either two ways. You'll attract someone that wants all of you and you're like, see, that's why I don't want this.
Interesting.
Because you'll have that belief. Or you'll attract people that are very casual and don't really want much. And you're like, oh, why does he want to go somewhere? Why does he want to talk to me? Why is he not asking me on a date? Because you'll attract that very thing.
Oh, that's what I do. And then I fall in love with them.
Yeah, you obsess for like 3 months.
I'm like, why don't you
and
love
then
me?
you hate them right after. You're like, okay, now I'm done. I can't even believe what I saw in them. I'm so over it.
Yeah, right? Those attachments, those quick things.
Yeah.
Yeah, attachment style is a good one. Like, do you use that with your clients or what's kind of like, what does it look like when someone comes to you and is like, okay, I'm struggling with dating. Like, what can we do?
So the process is, and I think a lot of people are uncomfortable admitting this, right? And I don't think there should be shame around this. Like, no one's ever been taught how to be in a relationship. No one's taught how to date. No one's taught like how to understand the opposite sex. So there's a lot of breakdown in this, right? We're taught how to find a job or how to have a career, right? Maybe even how to find, invest money, but we don't know much about love. And so I think we need to break down that it's okay to reach out and learn. And so the big thing with the clients is really uncovering what do they want and what's in the way of them having it. And it's a lot of those beliefs and old patterns and experiences that keep showing up and that keeps getting a little more resentful or bitter or disappointed or less hopeful. So it's really breaking down what's in the way. A lot of it is our thinking, our beliefs.
Okay. And then do you usually give them like a handbook to date or like opening lines, or is it more just the inner work?
It's both. It's totally both. Because we could go right into like how to flirt, what to say, how to get the guy. But if we haven't really shifted the dynamic of how they feel about themselves, that worthy piece, that value piece, they will just attract the wrong guy faster.
Oh, okay.
So I can tell you what to say and how to say it, but you'll draw in that same guy. So if you're like afraid of freedom, losing your freedom, and you're going to attract these guys that really don't want much, you're going to be like, see? Or the codependent guy who like wants you so much, like, I don't want it, but I just got you to get it quicker.
Oh,
So we have to shift that feeling to change the way you think. The other piece you want to think about too is we talked on like around feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
That feminine energy versus masculine energy and the difference. So feminine energy is very that fluid energy. It's flowing, it's receptivity. Masculine energy is very much that linear doing energy. And I think as women, we're so used to doing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying that, oh, I'm making the move. I'm going to make things happen. And sometimes that's okay. But in your love life, it's learn how to turn down that dial and be more in your feminine energy and allowing men to do stuff for us.
Right.
And whether it's opening the door or initiating a date or making a suggestion. And women sometimes are uncomfortable with it because we don't trust they'll actually do it. They'll actually follow through, that they'll make that happen. Or we're just so used to doing it ourselves because we're like the independent woman, or we've just had to do it in our career. And so it's just a role we just take over.
Yeah.
And then we end up finding we're disappointing these men because they're not really showing up the way we want to.
So how do we tap into our feminine energy, I guess?
Good question. So part of it is recognizing it. And then there's some different kind of rituals that kind of get you into your body. So for example, if you're going on a date, I would say to clients, like, make sure you shift out of work mode. So even whether you're at home, working at home, or working from the office, shift out of that. So whether it's changing your outfit, putting lipstick on, changing your hair or shoes, just so you're like, okay, I'm not in work mode, I'm going out. And that can help. It could be smell. So you might have a perfume you put on or incense, anything that's going to get you back into your body. That's the first step. There's lots of elements, but that's a really easy one. It's like, what are the ways I can get back into my body? So when I show up on a date or even on a dating app, right? There's rituals you can do to get on a dating app. So you're saying that the better energy is that you're in your body and you're feeling more grounded. When we're in our masculine energy, we're thinking, we're analyzing.
right.
And that tends to be when we go on a date and we show up with interview questions.
Right.
We like to do it on the weekend. What do you do for a job?
Yeah.
How do you save your money?
What's your 5-year plan?
Yeah, totally.
Am I in it?
Yes. Do you want kids? Do you want to get married? Are you retiring soon? Right? Like all of that energy. And so how do we drop that and be more into this fun, receptive energy? It takes practice.
Yeah.
And so there's some rituals you can do to kind of help in that.
Okay. And if there any like resources that you would say like are your top resources for people who are like struggling with dating, like any certain like books that you think were really informative to kind of like help you navigate through your dating journey?
Yeah, the one you had mentioned about attachment styles, that's a really good one. Attached. I think
Yeah,
I read that
yeah.
one. That's a good starter. It kind of became really popular in the last 5-6 years. People are talking about it.
Yeah.
Instagram's amazing. Everybody seems to have like information overload, right? So you can find lots of stuff there. But that would be a good book to start with. And then the other one isn't necessarily a resource, but looking at what you want. Right. So, and not like a checklist as like, does he have this and this? Look at what do I want to feel in a relationship? How do I want to feel? How do I want to make that other person feel? And then look in your past relationships. This is one of the main exercises I get my clients to do is look at your past, write out all the relationships you've been in, whether they're like 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 dates, write their names out, write the positive and negative qualities about them and the experience. And that'll start to show your patterns. And that'll start to show what you keep attracting or what you believe about love so that you can shift it to then start to cultivate what you do want.
I feel like I need to do that.
I know. I feel like I'm just always doing the same. Like I know someone's bad for me, but I stay in it. I don't know why, because I just want to change their mind so much.
Yes. And what sometimes, not saying this is you, but a lot of times us women will do this is we'll pick the bad guy, the guy that won't commit, or the guy we know that's not good for us. Because if we get him to change, it unconsciously makes us feel good. Like, see, I was worth it. I was worth it. I was the girl that he decided to commit to or settle down with or change his ways. And so it adds value to ourselves.
Right.
And so we're unconsciously seeking to feel valuable or worthy by choosing these men that aren't necessarily the right fit.
Like a project.
Okay. But we don't think of it that way. We're not thinking it logically like that. We're like just thinking, oh, this is a great guy, or he's got a lot of potential. That's the other thing. He's got so much potential. I could make this work.
I've heard on TikTok, which is obviously
another
such
another resource out there.
It's so true. Because they say like if there's someone like let's say you did have a project boyfriend and then you get him to where he needs to be, like he's always gonna leave you after for like another girl who's like once he's like gotten to like you've put him at this level, and then like you've committed all this time in, and he's like nope, ready for a new one. Like that's the one like moment he walks away, and like the only way to like elevate a guy is to like have the boundary to like leave versus like trying to get them to a good place, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that for sure, right? Because nobody wants to be fixed. That's the other
Okay.
thing, right? And if we think we are, then we're like, okay, I've arrived. I don't want to be with the person that got me here. I want to showcase where I'm at. So there's that.
And then they
part.
want to feel great about themselves.
Yes.
That makes sense. Like
For sure.
from a
And I
psychological
think too,
point
as
of view.
women, we'll go into that nurturing, that bit of mothering role, which it happens really easily. Where's your jacket? It's gonna rain. Why aren't you bringing your jacket? Where's the umbrella?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I'll just grab it for you.
Yeah.
You need snacks. How we haven't eaten yet? Like she just does things. And as much as we think we're being so caring and loving, he's like, oh my God. And so we have to learn as women to back off and like keep reminding ourselves, he's a grown adult. He'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. I have to remember that with my partner. Like he'll figure it out. And there'll be days he's like, why didn't I bring a jacket? I'm like, I suggested it and then I didn't bring it for you. Like, I'm not your mom, right? And
Like you don't want to get into that babying dynamic.
Yes, because
Okay.
then what happens is women get super frustrated, and then men also lose their power. They don't feel as powerful in that
Right.
relationship because they can't make their own decisions. So that project relationship kind of falls into that a little bit
Okay.
too. Mm-hmm.
What about the 30-day no contact rule? Do you think that's
For like a breakup,
for a
you
breakup
mean?
and like trying to get them back type thing?
Oh,
Just
who's
get
trying to
them
get
back.
back?
I'm not trying to get anyone back. I'm just saying I've YouTubed a lot about it.
Okay.
And I'm just so curious, like, do you believe in that rule?
I definitely think if you're to not necessarily get someone back, but to be able to shift out of that dynamic, you need 30 days. So have you ever like ended something and you're like, let's just be friends, and a week later you're talking, and then by 10th day you're kind of like back and kind of like seeing them a little more, and then by the second week you slept with them again.
Yes,
yeah.
You're like, well, we're just friends, like it's
Yeah.
fine. Right? What
And you
hap-
think you've detached, but you haven't at
Yes.
all. Yeah.
Yes, and you're like, whatever, it's just easier, you know. I'd rather have it with him than some stranger.
Right.
We can justify it all we want. But what happens is that space isn't enough to really recalibrate the dynamic between the two of you. So that's why it's so easy to blur back into what was, because it hasn't enough space. So like 30 days of no contact really helps you to create, okay, we truly are now just friends, or we're truly shifting into a different dynamic. If we don't create some space, it gets so blurry.
And I guess it clears your mind too. Because like maybe you miss that person or maybe it's just like habitual.
Yeah. And also when we sleep with someone, our oxytocin hormone's getting released, right? And that's that bonding hormone. It lasts up to 12 to 14 days in the body. And we will want to see that person. That's why having one night stand with women is really hard. And because that oxytocin level is so high, we want them to call and break up with us, even though we weren't together. Like that's how much we need that oxytocin running. So if you're sleeping with an ex, all of a sudden you're back into bonding with him, and then you're not supposed to see him, and then you might see him again, and then you're bonding again. And so it creates this really awkward dynamic of trying to move on.
12 to 14 days?
Yeah. So how do you, there's ways to lower it. So here's the thing. If you want to sleep around, which is great, there's no rules to it, whether you sleep on the first date or sleep with someone or whatever. There's no rules to me. But what I do recommend is knowing your body and knowing how to manage your emotions. Feel empowered.
Okay.
You're in choice. So what you want to look at is after that night, you want to make sure you drop that oxytocin. And you can do that through getting a massage. You're lowering it. So massage, anything physical touch, manicure, pedicure, getting your hair done, talking to a girlfriend on the phone will drop that oxytocin. And it'll start to normalize it, as opposed to reaching into that guy and wanting him to reassure you.
Interesting. That's why I call you so much.
Yes. I love it. So it's knowing these things, right? You want to be empowered. You don't want to not have choice, but you want to know how to handle it and to be able to feel grounded in it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think managing your emotions, not that I'm gonna, sorry, but it's something that would be a good exercise for you. I know my flaws as well.
You know, my emotions are all over the place. I spiral easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Into story, I bet.
And oh yeah, into story.
Yeah.
I just like can't concentrate on anything else. I'm done.
Yeah. And so what can happen is sometimes when you're in that experience, then where it's like hot and cold. I want to date, I don't want to date. Because when I'm dating, it's all this emotion, it's exhausting. And when I'm single or not trying to date, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I got it going on. And then you're like, hey, I want to date again. And then it spikes.
Yeah.
And so I find a lot of women have that hot and cold, like inconsistency of what they want. So it's knowing how to navigate so you feel more secure the whole time
Right.
and you're not dropping. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just love those little dopamine hits.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's knowing how to manage them or how to have more on your own.
Yeah, that's true.
So that you're not crashing so hard. Yeah, because it's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Now I just think of our little phone calls after a spiral. Yeah, I don't know, because I have like the opposite problem. Like I don't attach at all, and then I'll attach to like all the wrong people. Like I'll be very attached to someone, and they just like don't care about me at all, and I'll be like, oh, just like wait it out. But like they're definitely just could care less.
Yeah, so that goes back to your freedom piece. So remember, you love freedom.
Yes.
Yes, and so what you're attracting are people that don't really want to commit, so they won't cramp your style of freedom.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
So until you start to unpack that and shift it to be like, I can have freedom because I have boundaries, or I now know what I want, so I can bring somebody into my life because I'm not going to lose my freedom. You will attract someone that will want what you want.
Okay.
But what's happening is you're attracting to the people that really won't cramp your style because they
don't
aren't
care.
really invested in you.
That
They
makes
really
sense.
won't take your freedom away.
Yeah. Okay.
Just want that freedom.
No.
So we just got to redefine freedom. I love freedom. That's one of my top values as well. But we get to define, what does freedom look like for you? How do you maintain it? Where do you feel like you're losing it? Where have you lost it in the past?
Yeah.
What will you do differently?
Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Is there any like last kind of tidbits of information that you think would be helpful for women who are like struggling to date, I guess?
Struggling to date. Yeah.
Or sick of it. Like I feel like a lot of women are just tired.
Yeah, we're tired because we're playing the yo-yo game, right? Like the spinning out, right? That's exhausting. We're tired because we're attracting the same experiences over and over. We're going online and meeting people that we don't really like. And so I think why we're so tired is because we haven't really stopped to look at like, who am I and what do I want? And what am I doing that's creating this outcome? We tend to blame the outer world to the why we're not enjoying this. So the dating apps are crappy. There's no good guys. They're all married. They're all taken. The city I live in doesn't have enough men. Like we have all these external factors of why we think it's no fun or hard to date or exhausting. But really it's more that inner work of really getting clear on like, what am I thinking and believing about love and about relationships that's creating these experiences.
Okay.
And so when you start doing that reflection piece and be like, oh, here's my pattern. Okay, what would I do differently in this situation than I did last time? Okay, here's how I would feel if I want to feel that. Here's what I needed to say that I didn't say last time. I should have said this and I didn't. Or I felt it and I ignored it, my gut. Like learning from our past will help you change the outcome in the future, which then means your experiences will be different and you'll enjoy dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just have to change our outcome.
Yeah, do a little inner work, a little reflection piece, which most people don't want to hear. They're like, just tell me how to send that right text.
I know. Just tell me what to say.
That's all you want to do.
Give
Like,
me all
just
those
say,
momentum texts.
Yeah. I want the top surface stuff, which would work, but it's this deeper work that'll actually get you the outcome you want.
No, that makes sense.
Because I'm sure you've all watched a lot of the videos, YouTube videos, TikTok, right?
We
And
live
so,
on
yes, we
YouTube,
live on it. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're getting what we want.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it's true.
And so
it
it's
isn't working for us at the moment.
Yeah, so those are like surfacey points and they're valuable, but they only really land when we've done that shift in our work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to go there. And we don't even talk about it. We're like, what's the big deal? Like, I'm just going to go on this next date. I'm just not going to date at all.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like I know what I'm doing. Like I'm very aware that this is not good and I have to stop in like certain situations, but I just keep doing it.
Yeah, but that's because you might not know how to do it differently.
Oh, okay.
Right? You may know the pattern, right? But it's then what do I do differently? How do I handle this differently? How do I feel better about this? What should I say in this situation instead? Right. How do I get this different outcome? Because a lot of people have the awareness, but it's the second piece.
It's like the solutioning.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well now what? Where's the YouTube video for this?
Yeah. Oh God, if you saw my YouTube history, I don't even let people see it.
Oh my gosh.
You've got your favorites you follow.
Get him coming back to you.
Yeah, I'm just like, how to get him back. 30 days, no contact.
Oh my gosh.
Feminine energy.
Yeah, and all of that's valuable, but it goes to that deeper place.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get lost in this, right? And we kind of keep chasing that chasing energy to solve it, to fix it. And I also get a lot of women being like, why aren't the men doing the work? Do you ever feel that? Like, why are we talking about this? Why are the books for us? Why is YouTube's videos for us? Where's the men? And so it's knowing men necessarily don't look at something to fix something. And we look at the producer. And it's because a a lot of guys don't think there's a problem until it's really broken. Where women are very proactive.
Right, that makes sense.
Extremely proactive.
I just listened to a podcast like yesterday, and they said that when guys don't hear from a girl, like if a girl doesn't text them, they'll be like, well, this is going well, because she has like nothing to talk to me about. Yeah. But like a girl would think, they'd be like, he hasn't texted me in a week, like it's a disaster. Right. Like we're totally different mindsets.
Yes. And so I love that you bring that up, is that whole idea of really understanding men, right? Because that's that man energy. And once you understand, so I was saying about my journey is I had to understand men, and then I had to understand myself. Because if you understand men but don't love yourself or have your values, there's a disconnect. And if you really love yourself but you don't understand men, there's a disconnect. So you really do need to help understand that man dynamic, so that you're not personalizing everything. A huge piece.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
No
I really
problem.
appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
thank
in.
you.
Thank you.
We've learned so much. Now we know all our issues. So now we just have to figure out how to fix them.
Love.
I'm screwed. No, I'm just kidding.